Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm taking up more of your questions in another segment of Ask Judy. If you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. I have a question from Matt Emery, who said, "It seems to me that our boomer generation is your biggest audience. Do you see any younger generations loving the Waltons as we do since it currently plays on various networks today?" I'm always excited when someone tells me that their children or their grandchildren, that they've introduced them to the Waltons and that they enjoy them as much as, the parents or the grandparents did watching the show from the beginning in the 70s. So if you are out there watching this and you are from the younger generation, please put something in the comments to let us know that you are watching and why the Waltons speaks to you, what you like about it. I'd appreciate knowing that. I don't know what percentage of younger people are watching the Waltons. I think it's still a lot of the reruns are being watched by those who grew up knowing and loving the show and are enjoying the reruns. But who knows? I mean, the hope is that new generations will find the show. I think it's pretty timeless. I think the stories are just as relevant today as they were when they were on in the 70s and as the situations were when they occurred when Earl was growing up in the 30s and 40s, what we are actually depicting. So I think it lends itself to being a timeless classic. The fact that we were a period show when we originally filmed in the 70s, I think also keeps it from seeming dated in the same way. Plus, we had such amazing production value with our incredible crew and with, Oscar award-winning cinematographer leading the way and things like that. So we're very, very proud of the quality of the Waltons. I have a question from Lorraine Babin, who said, "In the episode The Heritage, Grandma and Grandpa are celebrating an anniversary and Grandpa is dancing a jig on some boards. Do you recall shooting that scene?" I do remember that. And Will Geer was really giving it his all. How was that to shoot? Will always committed 110% to everything he was doing. He never marked a scene, i.e. walked through it, perhaps in rehearsal, but his energy was astounding to me as a teenager to think, oh my goodness, wow, he's old and look how energetic he is, but so inspiring. And now as I'm getting closer to those advanced ages that I thought were so old when I was young, I realized that we do still have energy. And if we keep going and we keep moving and we keep being engaged in life, then we can continue to do those sorts of things. But I was so impressed with the energy and vigor and the way he threw himself into it. And I thought it was such a lovely scene between he and Grandma and how she was like worried about him. And then he kind of stumbled and fell to his knee. I do not know if that was intentional. I think it might have been that it was something that he felt was right for the scene. And then, of course, Grandma helps him stand back up again, but just a beautiful scene. You also said that Grandma was wearing her wedding dress, but it was not the same one passed down to Mary Ellen to wear. Yes, you are correct about that. When in the wedding episode, when Mary Ellen says she's wearing Grandma's wedding dress, it was not Grandma's wedding dress at all. So as you go on to say, back then, they had no idea we would be able to watch and rewatch the episodes. So this type of continuity was not on their radar. Well said. I have another question here from a user who just has a whole series of numbers and letters, so I'm not going to bother reciting those off. But you said, just wondering what was the oddest or weirdest prop you ever worked with? I don't know that I worked with any odd or weird props particularly that I can recall. But some of the trickiest ones were some of the medical things, because when I became a nurse, I didn't have that actual training myself. So things like working with particularly like blood pressure cuffs, that sort of thing, I had to learn how to do that. And when you work with a lot of props, the managing of those props and making it seem like it's something you do all the time and that's perfectly natural. Plus, you're working to hit marks and remember lines and interact with the other actors. So it really is something that you have to work your way through and rehearse. And I would sort of rehearse on my own with those types of things. And a technical advisor would show me how to, say, work a blood pressure cuff so I looked like I knew what I was doing. So hopefully for those of you who really know what it should look like, it was passable. And then you said, if an actor damaged any props, are they personally responsible for cost or replacement of that particular prop? If you're using something in the course of filming and something happens to it, the company has insurance. So I've never known an actor to be charged for something. Even I think at times when people were legitimately just goofing around and something got damaged, I still think it came under the insurance. Perhaps on a really, really low budget thing, they might, if someone was just goofing around and broke something, there might be a little conversation about the value of something like that. But certainly nothing I ever saw or experienced in working on the Waltons. This is from Jack Kirby, who there'd been a question about the gold coin in the episode The Journey. And I said I assumed it wasn't real, but I wasn't there. I never saw it. So Jack said, I can answer the question about money on sets. Apparently, it is federally regulated. Saw a documentary about it. Money on sets for filming must look only so realistic, and there are standards on how you do it. So the prop department is fully aware how to do that. You can print that money, and I saw a close-up. It's hilarious how bad it looks compared to the real thing, but it's good enough in faraway shots, and you never notice. So interesting to know. I had no idea there was some federal regulation on it. Go figure. And then I have a question about shoes. I got to thinking, clothes you can wash, but shoes, you really can't wash them unless they're sneakers. So what is the sanitation issues with that? Are you required to buy your own shoes, or is it the prop department? Shoes are part of the wardrobe department. We were not required to provide our own shoes, particularly with regular cast. I don't think we ever wore any of our own clothes on the Waltons. And when it's a period show, they really can't require, they can always try things, but it would be hard to require someone to provide all of their own period clothing because we simply don't have those things in our wardrobe. So shoes were part of the wardrobe department, and sometimes they were just pulled out of the wardrobe stock. I imagine they were like sprayed and with sanitizer and things like that. I didn't get that close to them to check them out. But every once in a while, they'd be new. And sometimes they weren't very comfortable. And so you dealt with things like that. But that's kind of how shoes worked. If it was a present time show, and when I would go guest on shows, often I would be asked to bring potentially certain pieces of wardrobe, particularly shoes. So I'd bring things in, and then the wardrobe department would look through my things, and they would augment with stuff they had from their department, but it just saved them having to shop if they didn't have a substantial wardrobe department of their own. So I frequently wore my own clothes and my own shoes. So that would happen a lot of times there. And then they're supposed to give you a wardrobe allowance where they pay you X amount per piece of clothing of your own that you provide, or to provide for dry cleaning and stuff like that. So sometimes that happened, sometimes it didn't. So that's kind of how clothing works. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons episodes, special guests, and more of your questions in another Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.